Alright, last time I made one of these videos, I got in trouble because I didn't do a cool intro video. So, what's up guys? My name's Jared. I'm from JStyle Designs. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be building some 300ZX taillights. So, these boards here, which I'll get to focus, they're super popular. These go into a 300ZX taillight. They're not plug and play. They do require a bit of wiring and a Blue Ghost controller. So feel free to look that up in your own time. But for me today, I'm going to be showing you guys how to A, install the boards, and B, open the taillights so that you can do this at home. Alright, so over here is my little bench. I've got this EVA foam laid down so that it's all nice and soft. As you can see, I've already opened this light here. So this one has been opened. It's a nice clean lens. These are really hard to come across in a clean condition, but that's probably half the reason why they cost so much. These cost about 600 bucks a pair, so take that into consideration, and that's why I'm also making a DIY video, so you can actually do this at home. You don't necessarily have to pay me. So the goal of today is to put these boards in here, so that's what we're gonna have a finished product, a whole lot better than that. This light here hasn't been touched, hasn't been opened, hasn't been anything other than this screw's been removed. So first point to do today is remove this screw on your tail lights. That is like imperative. That screw there connects to the back of this light here. So the plastic lens is like this reflector part, has a little thread in it. That's where the screw goes into. You need to undo the screw so that the lens can come off. If you don't do that, you risk cracking this reflector part here when you're prying apart and the screw's still in. So make sure you remove that screw right in the middle there. It's gonna make your life 10 times easier. Alright, so first things first, I'm just gonna go over what you need. Grab a heat gun. I choose to use this particular nozzle here because I find it directs the heat a little bit easier onto the seam instead of just having a big shooting air or like hot pocket of air coming out. It can direct it onto the seam, so I use this particular setup here. I use a Ryobi because I've already got Ryobi everything else, so I may as well. So excuse all the mess. This is where the magic happens, so this is clean. But yeah, grab yourself a heat gun. Grab yourself some reverse opening pliers if you haven't already. They're pretty essential, like it just helps you pry and open the lens without necessarily using a screwdriver, which you'll probably also need if I'm gonna be honest here. So if I can focus on the little bugger, just grab yourself a flat blade screwdriver and you can sort of pry these apart. So these little plastic tabs, they're on the sides, they're on the bottoms. Just pry them apart with your screwdriver as it's coming open, otherwise you will split them like I did on this one here. So no one's perfect, we all make mistakes. I did split this one here. You can sort of fix it, which I'll show you a bit later, but yeah, try not to do that ultimately. But yeah, there's all your parts, there's all the tools. Let's get started. Alright, these lenses are super fragile, so you don't want to hit the front of it. You want to work all the way around the seam here. We're going to have to do two openings, so we're going to have to do the bottom and the top somewhat separately, just because I choose to do this method instead of putting it in the oven, because you know, if you melt a $600 light, that's going to hurt. So I do this method, and it means I have to open the bottom and the top somewhat separately, but as you'll see, I'm going on the bottom, I do a little bit on the sides, do a little bit on the other side in a minute, and I'm just going to go along very, very slowly. I'm going to swap over to the Metas now just because it's easier to show you guys what I'm doing. As you can see, because I got this so hot, it's actually started to lift away. That's perfect. So now I'm going to go slide my screwdriver underneath. Just make sure that it's lifting away. See how it's lifting off of those tabs? So go underneath, pushing all the way around. Sometimes you can get the sides, sometimes I've heated it up enough. You might need to go a little bit more. Just be very careful not to pry on the front plastic here. Do not do that. So, well, this is a prime example. By prying, I've popped this one here, so it's kind of bound to happen. I'll show you how to fix it later, but at least now that's broken, I can just continue. So I want to go all the way around here. Release this clip. Yep. So you ultimately have to pry it a little bit. You have no choice. Just try not to pry it too much. And again, I'm going to get my screwdriver down behind there. And just pry it out a little bit. This is when you can grab your pry tool and get it underneath. You can see I'm very, very slowly applying pressure. It's very, very slowly coming apart. So I'm going to need to hit this with a bit more heat, but that's the first goal, is to release these little tabs. Release all these little tabs, and then slowly move it out. I'm going to want to hit the top side for the next section. I'll do some more on the top, and then I'll start moving the top half out a little bit as well. So a little bit by a little bit, we'll pry it apart. Alright, so now I'm working on the top side. With this one, again, I'm going from the back, but because the plastic comes over the top so far, you will have to heat up the top. Just be sure to move along lots and lots, so that you don't damage the plastic in the front here. So you'll see the plastic start to go a shiny black. That's how I know it's nice and hot. You're just going to want to do that along the whole top edge, forwards and backwards, a couple of times, just to make sure that all the butyl is soft, and it's going to release that lens that much easier. So, because I was heating it up, this edge has started to lift. It's lifted a fraction, not a huge amount, but enough that I can get my screwdriver up in there and start releasing some of the butyl. So just sliding it along just to release that 20-year-old seal. Go back the other way. Alright, now that we're all the way behind there, I'm just going to start releasing the top. So you can use your screwdriver back here, just sort of pry it out a little bit. Like I said, the lenses are so fragile. I'd rather sort of flex this housing, because it's all plastic, you can heat it up and repair it afterwards, whereas the lenses you can't really repair. So I treat them as primary goal. But yeah, it's all starting to get very loose now. I can feel it flexing in the housings. So I'm just going to make sure that I release these side tabs one more time as the top half comes out. Like so. I'm going to go release the tab on the other side. So if I just get my screwdriver up here. Being careful not to slip like so. Get my screwdriver up the side there. Release that tab. Just pry that top half of the lens out. It's mostly coming. There we go. It's starting to slide. Alright, so if you want it to be pedantic, it's all been released now, as you can see by the big gaps. If you want it to be pedantic, you can grab the heat gun, go around it one more time just to loosen up all this butyl, and it'll be a little bit easier to pull it back out. But hopefully I don't eat my words. I'm relatively confident that I'll be able to just pull it apart from here. So I'm slowly prying on the top. Slowly prying on the top and the bottom. Feels like the bottom is still a little bit connected. So those tabs that we were talking about earlier. So a smart man would hit it with a bit more heat right about now, but I'm just being brave. Okay, there we go. She's coming. So I use my screwdriver a lot more than I probably should have on this build, but you know, I can feel a lot more with the screwdriver. On the 300ZX lights, I've actually cracked one housing before, and it was terrifying. I thought I just cracked another one then. But yeah, you do not want to crack this lens because this is so fragile and they're so expensive, so be very careful with these lenses. On this particular lens, it looks like the plastic has stayed in, so that's kind of fine. You can leave the plastic in, actually. Leave the plastic in, that's fine. Alright, now that the lenses are off, we can remove this gronk shit. So get rid of this orange, get rid of this red. Just get rid of them. Chuck them in the bin. Alright, so once they're gone, we can get rid of these globes. These lights tend to have lots of damage on the inside like this because they're just not very watertight, I suppose. This plug down here, I don't know if you can see it, it's all corroded and shit, so even the globe's quite difficult to remove. So I might have to actually pull this guy out. Shit, that whole thing is corroded. So I just got a bunch of corrosion and dust out of there. Classic. That's what happens to these 20-year-old lights. So it's probably not the worst thing in the world to replace it with these new boards that we have here. But yeah, once you got all the globes out, you can give this a bit of a sand, spray paint this black, and then that'll just help, you know, hide all this yucky nonsense that's in the back there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, clean all this up, spray paint it black. What I'm also going to do to help with fitment is, I'll mark it out for you guys now, this whole center part here, this here, I'm going to cut that back, and it's going to allow me to fit the boards in a little bit easier and just give me some more room to work with. So I'm going to cut all of this off as well, then I'm going to spray paint it black, and then I'm going to show you guys. So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright, this is the only modification you're really going to have to do that you have to be super, super careful about. So again, when removing the lens, be careful. When modifying the lens, be careful. This is the screw hole that we were talking about earlier. This goes from the back of the housing through to the front. We're going to have to remove that because, as you can see, it protrudes out quite a fair way, and we've now got thicker LEDs that go across this panel, so we have to cut that out. So to do that, I typically use a Dremel with one of these little quick cut-off blades. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. The camera may or may not capture it, but I'll put it on the metas just in case. Alright, so let's cut it off. Alright, so now it's flat. I just had to wear it away. So the first little bit I did was a cut, and then I was just using this to sort of push against it and sort of wear it away with friction until it's a little bit more flat. So that's almost perfect now. Alright, so by now I'm assuming you've built these boards. So I can either A, pre-solder them and send them out to you, or you can build them yourself. There's other videos for that. But when we're laying these down, make sure that they're the same way. So this is my input. So that means the direction of my LEDs is going to the left, to the outside of the light. And you also want this panel also going to the left, to the outside of the light. That's going to ensure that your direction flows the same way, and it's just going to make programming easier. So as you can see here, we've just got them loosely in place. They'll sit flat against the housing. So I'll sit in here like this, and then from the front, you can just see the modern sort of LED look there. So what I usually do is I use a Stanley or DeWalt hot glue gun. So this melting point is, I think, 130 degrees, which you don't often see in taillight applications. So I tend to put a few dobs just around the sides to hold the boards in place, and then I'll go over it with a proper silicone, the 221 that I classically am known to use. So I'll just do that now. We'll put a few dobs of silicone glue to hold these roughly in place until we can silicone them in place, and they'll be in there forever. Make sure you don't forget to take off the clear plastic from the front. So obviously I leave this plastic on during the build, and then when it's finally time to install, we get that satisfying nice fresh board ready to be installed. Alright, so like I said, we only need a few little dots. It's just to hold them in place until we can get the silicone out. The main goal here is to make sure that your rows line up, so you want them to line up from top to bottom, all the way along the back. That way from the front, they also line up. You don't have a higgledy-piggledy mess of LEDs. Alright, so I've already gone ahead and straightened out this side, so the whole housing is back to pretty much where it starts off, so it's nice and straight. The bottom was the only part where you could sort of tell that I'd pried upon, but the housing looks nice and straight now. So I'm going to go ahead and do this other side, and I'll show you guys how I do it. So as you can tell, there's a little crack here which I can repair with heat, and for the most part it's not too bad, but I can get this bottom ledge a little bit straighter. As you can see, it's a bit blown out on this bottom corner, so I'll show you guys how I'm going to straighten up the edges now and get it ready for the front housings to come back on. There's not a whole lot of magic to it because there's nothing that we can really damage here. This is all an ABS plastic, which means when you heat it up, you can conform it back to its original shape. So sometimes when you heat it up, it'll actually start bending itself into shape. Sometimes you just have to do it yourself. So I'll show you a few little tips and tricks that I do to bend it into place, and then you can sort of follow along at home. So just get it really, really hot. Blow the air of the heat gun in the direction that you're trying to bend the plastic. It just sort of helps the plastic sort of know which way to go, I guess, as ridiculous as that sounds, but that definitely does help. So you're just going to heat up that whole bottom section, getting it nice and hot. It should go like a shiny black. That's how you know it's hot and ready to be malleable and conformed. It's not quite hot enough yet. I can't feel it bending. It should be quite bendy and floppy on the bottom. So I'll just hit it from the top a little bit as well. Get both sides of the plastic super duper hot. I can sort of already see it starting to bend back the way I want it to. So I just need to push it back a little bit further. So now that it's really hot, sit it on that lip and push down. And I just use like a big 34 size socket to sort of help flatten it. If I press on it like this, almost like a roller dozer, it just helps flatten it out. So I'm just giving it a final little bend with my fingers, but it's largely back in shape already, so that's good for me. One little corner I've got to fix up here, so I'll do the same process, just on a smaller scale. So it's all straight there now. I don't know how well I'm showing, but it's a lot straighter. So I'll let this cool down so the plastic can hold its shape, and then I'll go through and I'll remove all the butyl that's still stuck in these old housings, getting it ready for the lens to push back down on top of. So obviously it's day 2. I went ahead and I Sikaflexed all of these boards in. So these are held in now using the silicone 221, so I've shown that in some of my other videos, but you can go ahead and use your silicone of choice really, but I choose to use black because obviously it blends in well. But this is obviously day 2. The boards look absolutely fantastic, so they're all firmly secured in there, definitely not going anywhere. So we can flip this guy over too. So as you can see, these are the boards, this is the job. It's pretty much ready to install and program. So the housings have been cleaned. I've got a fresh layer of butyl all wrapped around there. So you can use car builders, Illumo, like, I don't know, stuff from Amazon if you really want, but I've got a fresh layer of butyl ready to heat up. So now I've just got to heat this side and press this side. So we're nearing the end here. One little thing I figured I'd show you guys before I put this all back together. You can see this hole here. I've added this hole in. So the idea is that I can thread my input cable, if I can just get the bugger. So I can put this input cable through that hole, and then I can still put all my globe holders back in, which will help me keep this light sealed and dry. So I'm adding in an extra hole for my wiring to come out, and we're keeping the original globes all plugged in. Or sorry, the globe holders. Do not leave the globes plugged in, otherwise you'll burn the back of these boards because they will get really, really hot. So that's another tip for young players. Make a little hole for this guy to come through so that your light's still watertight, airtight, and will help with condensation. I'm just going to remove this out of the way because this is the most fragile part. I don't want this to get damaged by heat. But if I move that off to the left, like I said, there's not a whole lot to this. I'm just going to heat up this entire surface so that the butyl's soft and sticky, and then I can press my lens straight on the top. So I'll do that now. We'll just go around until this is all very hot and sticky. It'll end up looking a bit like chewing gum on the bottom of your shoe. It'll stretch out. This particular one's going grey as it gets hot, so that also helps me tell. It's a little bit easier to tell when it's getting hot and sticky. But the hotter you get this now, the further you can press the lens in, and the less pushing you'll have to do afterwards when the fragile lens is in. So I like to get this very, very hot and very, very sticky, and it'll make the next part of the job that much easier. Alright, so we'll get the right one. Don't forget to poke your little cable through. Line it all up. Start compressing. Typically I would use a clamp to compress these, but because the front of the lens is so fragile, you just have to go around with your hands and sort of push it into place. It's really awkward because of how long and flat it is, so you just have to go along slowly, compressing the top and the bottom. We're inevitably going to have to put some more heat on this. Get it as close as you can the first time around. So as you can see, I've got a small gap there. I don't know how well it's going to focus, but I have got a small gap all the way around. So I'm going to need a heat all the way around here with my heat gun again, and just compress it even further. So that's one mostly done. We'll do the other side, and then we'll do the final heat and compress. Alright, so as promised, I'm going to show you guys the closing of the right hand side. So like I said, it's still got these massive gaps all at the top, so I'm just going to be heating it and slowly pressing it. But I figured for the sake of, you know, showing you guys the video all the way through, let's do it together. So like I said, the plastic will start to turn a very shiny black. That's how you know that it's getting super hot. And you just want to make sure that this lens here is not getting hot. So that's why I use this directional nozzle on the end of the heat gun. It really does make a difference. So when we close the top, we're also going to somewhat close the sides. So I do apply a little bit of heat off to the sides, slightly out of frame, but you get the gist. I'm just applying heat to wherever I'm trying to close. So the first half I'll be focusing on this top section, which includes the side. The second half I'll be doing the bottom section. As you can probably tell, I did light them up whilst I was taking a quick break. figured it looks better on camera if they're doing their cool show modes. So you can already see this starting to close now. So as I'm pushing on it, the lens is coming in even closer together. I'm just trying to put those little tabs on the side in. That'll stop it from opening again further. So this side here needs just a little bit more heat. It's not closing as much as I want it to, whereas this side's starting to look pretty good. So just add a bit more heat. You can even work the back here closer to the bolts, like the top half of the housing. Same with the side, like the heat will transfer through. I'm actually gonna have to unplug this one just so I have a little bit more clearance on the bench with moving it around. But yeah, because I didn't get this top clip closed, it's starting to open again. So you sort of have to close both these top clips in order for it to stay closed. Shut up, birds. Fuck. I'm trying to make a video. That's good. I can really see it pressing down now. Shut up, birds. Piss off, man. Alright, I'll put this in focus so you can see it's closing in here really nicely. I've got to get that little plastic pin to push in so I can get a screwdriver and just make sure that that top tab is sitting on top of the plastic. Do the same on the other side, pressing down as we go. Do the same on this side here. We're good to go. We'll have to do the bottom half in a sec. Alright, now that I chased those fucking birds off, I was literally chucking stuff at them in the tree, because them little bastards was chirping. See, that's hot as shit. That's why it's good to have these gloves on. Now I've just got to force these little clips down and over. Stop it from opening up again. It's looking pretty good. Just got to heat this top half a little bit more to fold it down. Almost ready to call it. Alright, now that they're all closed, all that's left to do is tidy up the lenses. So we'll just give them a Windex and a wipe. Don't use alcohol on these because the plastic can crack. It's spider webs. I have no idea why. It's just something to do with how the alcohol reacts. So just use Windex. It's nice and it's easy. It's not too harsh on the lens. With a little bit of elbow grease, you can still get all the messy butyl, etc. off the front of this plastic. There's no worries at all. See, just giving it some elbow grease. Friction will help get all that butyl off the front. Oh, that's a big blob. Need a bit more. Windex for that one. Far out. It's making me work for it.
You better work this. That hawk.
That's it, lenses are nice and clean. Do one last plug in. It's all working exactly the way we want it to. So we'll move that. Job well done, boys. So that's open, closed, sealed up and operating. So that's everything you need to do at home to do the 300ZX tail light. There is obviously one more component, but I don't have a center garnish in stock, so I'm not able to show you how this works, but it's very, very simple. So these are going to be your reverse slats. So you're just going to have to cut out the plastic that's on your center garnish and glue that in place. So it's really quite easy. I'll have to make a separate video for that one day, but for now, you've got the majority. So now that we've got the lights all working and built, we've got the Blue Ghost controller, we can check that they're all working and synced and programmed. And these ones here are ready to send out to the customer. So I've already done all the programming and they're all ready to go. So heaps of different show options that you can choose from, create your own. That's a whole different video. But for now, you've got 300ZX taillights. They're on the bench. Go ahead and install them in your car. It's been a big day. Have fun, kids.